Welcome to Glow and Flow Radio, where we explore real world wellness, simple, science backed ways to bring peace, purpose, and balance into your daily life. I'm Delicia, your host and holistic wellness curator, and today we're diving into a topic that's often misunderstood: self care. Now, you may think you know the definition of self care, and maybe you do. We see it all over social media: the candles, the bath bombs, the treat yourself posts. And while those moments of comfort have their place, true self care goes much, much deeper. In this episode, we'll unpack what self care really means and what it isn't, the science behind why we resist it, and practical, realistic ways to care for yourself, even when life is busy or messy. So if you've ever felt like you're doing self-care wrong, or you want to have a full understanding of what self-care is and is not, this episode will help you redefine it on your own terms. Let's start with an honest truth. Self-care has been commercialized. Somewhere along the way, it became about products instead of practice. It's become something to buy, post about, schedule, instead of something to live. Self-care should be ingrained in your daily, day-to-day activities because it is truly something that you live, not something you purchase. But we've come to a point where we see self-care as spa days, face masks, or expensive candles. And all of this is lovely. And don't get me wrong, that can be a part of your self-care. But they don't always address the deeper need to restore your energy, protect your peace, and reconnect with yourself. Self-care isn't indulgent. It's maintenance and restoration. It's the foundation that allows you to show up as your best self, not just for others, but for you as well. You often hear the phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup, and that is so true. You must take care of yourself first before you can be of any use to anyone else, including your kids, your spouse, your boss, your parents. The list goes on and on. But here's the thing. Most of us aren't even filling the cup. We're patching leaks, juggling seemingly never-ending to-do lists, and for many, hoping coffee will fix it. We need to look at self-care with a fresh perspective. True self-care means slowing down long enough to ask, what do I need right now? That's mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. You also need to understand what's depleting you. So you need to ask yourself, what is depleting me? Now, this can be difficult because you really must take an honest look at your life and pinpoint areas that are draining your energy. Once you understand what's depleting you, then you need to ask, what is restoring me? What helps you refill your cup so that you can be in optimal condition, not only for yourself, but for others, but most importantly for yourself. Because again, you can't help others if you're depleted. Many of us, are dealing with care for children, maybe aging parents. We have a stressful job. The list goes on. We have church commitments. There's all types of things that can be pulling at you at any given time, which makes it so important to take care of yourself, to give yourself that self-care that you need in order to be able to be there fully for those you love and those who depend on you. When you're aware, when you have that awareness of what you need, what's depleting you, and what's restoring you, and it's not products. When you have that awareness, that's where the real healing begins. Now let's look at the science of self-care. From a biological perspective, self-care isn't selfish. It's self-regulation. Many people feel like if they take time to take care of themselves, then they're being selfish. Or someone, may tell them that they're being selfish. A spouse, I'm just going to be real, may tell you you're being selfish because you're taking a moment to take care of yourself, or you're doing things, not just a moment, you're doing things in your daily life to take care of yourself. And by them making that statement alone, that statement is selfish. Because anyone who cares for you wants the best for you. And you need to care enough about yourself to want the best for yourself. And you need to take care of yourself. And that is important. That stress regulation is important. Because oftentimes, and you hear it from medical professionals, that stress can manifest in physical ways. And when we ignore our body's needs, for instance, sleep, nutrition, movement, emotional release, we push the nervous system into constant fight or flight. Over time, this leads to fatigue, anxiety, irritability, and even burnout. This happened to me. I felt as if I was constantly on go. My mind seemed forever racing, and I made an honest assessment and determined that I could not sustain that way of living. I thought back to childhood and how I would just experience joy and live in the moment. And I realized I was no longer doing that. I was always in one moment thinking ahead to the next moment and what I had to do hours later. I couldn't just be in that moment. I couldn't shut things off. And that is not a way to live. And I knew I needed to make mindful choices and start slowing down so that I could refill my cup and be present in each moment. Practices like rest, hydration, journaling, deep breathing, or time in nature activates the parasympathetic nervous system. In other words, the body's rest and restore mode. In that state, your heart rate slows, digestion improves, and your brain becomes clearer. And I can attest to this because being out in nature, going on walks in local parks. I live near the beach, so going to the beach, walking along the beach, just being in nature, taking all of that in. It calms you. I could just go and sit and just stare at the water and think and pray and be. And that helped greatly. And continues to help greatly. Deep breathing. I love practicing that deep breathing. And I have apps that I use. I actually have a VR headset that I love that has these apps that I can use to practice deep breathing, but you don't even need that. You can do deep breathing in your exercises in your car, at your desk, as you lay in the tub, relaxing in your bath, whatever, wherever you need to take a moment for yourself, or whenever, you can get a chance to take a moment for yourself, you can practice deep breathing. And over time, you will see what a difference that makes. And of course, I can't say enough about rest and hydration. And journaling is also excellent for getting things out. Instead of holding them in, you can get things out. And you can, of course, have the traditional written journal, but there's digital journals as well that you can use. What it all comes down to is that when you put these practices into action, you can actually think, feel, and create from a place of peace. So self-care is not luxury. It's neuroscience. It is literally how we keep our systems balanced and resilient. Now, let's talk about what holistic self-care looks like beyond the surface level. There are 4 main dimensions of self-care, and they work together creating the elements of balance. And that's not physical balance, that's internal balance. That's all elements working together. Now, the first dimension is physical self-care. This is the most visible form. It includes sleep, nutrition, movement, hydration, and rest. But most important, it's also about listening to your body. Ask yourself, am I tired or am I overwhelmed? There were times when I would just audibly say, I'm so tired, when truly I was feeling overwhelmed with everything that was going on in my life at that time. Yes, two things can exist at the same time. You can be tired and overwhelmed, but sometimes when you think you're just tired, you could be overwhelmed, and there's a distinction there. Or ask yourself, am I hungry or am I emotionally empty? That's something that I combat as well. I tend to eat my emotions. I'm an emotional eater. So if I'm sad, if I'm happy, I learned as a child to equate happiness or sadness or, those emotions with food. And that has been a struggle to break that in adulthood. And that's, again, a constant battle that I fight. But I had to realize and assess and determine what was going on before I could tackle the issue and deal with it. Self-care in this dimension might look like stretching, walking, drinking water, or saying no to overcommitment. And I will tell you, it is okay to say no. It is okay to say no just to stay home. If you don't want to go out with your friends for the weekend, that's okay. If you can't attend a function, a church function, because you are depleted and you need to rest, that is okay. Catch the next one. But you have to take care of you. Remember, you have to fill your cup first. The second dimension is emotional self-care. Emotional self-care means creating space to feel what you feel without judgment. Journaling, therapy, creative expression, or simply giving yourself permission to cry all count. Emotional self-care is asking, what am I holding in that needs to come out? Do not allow people to make you feel guilty about how you feel. You feel how you feel. And you don't need to hold that in to make others feel more comfortable. That is not healthy. That is not taking care of you. Now, I'm not saying you have to be explosive, but there are healthy ways to get things out. There's ways to communicate how you feel. So do not allow anyone to make you feel guilty for feeling how you feel, especially if they're making you feel guilty for feeling a certain way because of something that they did, and they're guilting you for your reaction to their disrespect or whatever the case may be, whatever they did to cause your reaction. I'm not excusing overreaction, because there's overreaction, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about, simply reacting to an issue or disrespect or any number of things that can evoke an emotion within you, but you do not need to feel guilty and hold those things in. Again, it's not healthy. That's why therapy and speaking to someone that you trust is encouraged. That's part of self-care. Releasing those negative emotions and not holding them in. Making yourself smaller to make others bigger is not healthy for you. And I'm all about helping you. That's why I do what I do. That's why I'm doing this. Because of what I've been through and the steps I've had to take to overcome. And I've been there where people have tried to make me feel poorly because of how I feel, or they try to guilt me for reacting and calling them on certain things because I'm the type, I can't hold it in. I know it's not healthy. I have to release it or else it'll fester and I'll just overthink it. And that's not a good place to be. So I don't want to go down that road. That's getting a little deeper than this conversation. But again, emotional self-care is the second dimension. And it's very important. Now let's move on to the third dimension, mental self-care. Protecting your mind from information overload. That's the main part of this dimension. Now, that might mean setting phone boundaries, modifying your social media feed, or reading something uplifting instead of doom scrolling. I've had to modify my social media because me being empathetic and an empathetic person, I see things on social media and I try to be supportive, of certain posts, and it saddens me. It saddens me to see abuse, whether it's animals, children, domestic, or what have you. And when you like something, not that I'm liking abuse, but you know what I mean. You like the post in support of that person or that organization, you get more and more of that on your feed. And over time, that began to weigh on me. So I would have to periodically, and I still do, I take periodic breaks from social media, and that's how I modify my social media. I still support as I can, but when I need to take a break, I take a break. Definitely like to read uplifting quotes, affirmation, scripture. Your mind needs quiet to think clearly, and that's okay to prioritize that. So make that the top of your list of things to do. Making time to prioritize the quiet thinking moments and protecting your mind from overload of information, especially negative information or things that stress you out or present some type of mental burden for you. Now, the fourth dimension is spiritual self-care. Now, this does not have to mean religion. It's about connection and meaning. Meditation, prayer, gratitude, time in nature, or volunteering all nurture your spirit. And there are times when I combine the two. I will go out in nature. Like I said, I live near the water, so I love to go near the water and just think and pray. I practice gratitude daily throughout the day, but definitely in the morning. Part of my morning ritual, I get up and I'm faced with the sun immediately, the way I have my bedroom set up, and I am thankful. I just immediately wake up and give thanks and take in the day, the sunlight, or even the rain, because we need both, right? So right now, I want you to ask yourself, what helps me feel grounded and connected to something bigger than myself? Again, what helps you feel grounded and connected to something bigger than yourself? And I want you to remember that balance doesn't mean doing all four dimensions every day. It means knowing which one needs your attention most right now. So if you know that you're depleted in the spiritual dimension, then that's where you will put your primary self-care focus, or the physical, or it could be a combination of the two. But I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed, because it doesn't have to be rigid. Like in our prior episodes, we spoke about morning rituals, nighttime rituals, and now with self-care in general, you do not need to be rigid in your self-care. Now, I kind of went down a rabbit hole earlier when speaking about, saying no. But now I want to speak a little bit more about redefining rest and saying no. Because one of the hardest parts of self-care is permission. That's giving yourself permission or giving yourself the right to rest, to unplug and not be productive. Unfortunately, we now live in a culture that glorifies busyness. If you're not busy, if you're not constantly on go, then you're seen as lazy, unproductive, not caring enough. I've worked with a boss in my life that if you weren't frazzled like him, then he felt like you didn't care enough. If you weren't running around like the sky is falling, then it's like, okay, you weren't in it. But it's like, no, that is not my way. I am a calm thinker. I like to think things through and calmly react and make a plan and put that into action. So, and I will definitely make time for my self-care. I am not going to spend every waking moment of my life thinking about work, staying busy. Rest is mistaken for laziness, and saying no may, for some, feel like a failure. But boundaries are not walls. They're doors that help protect your peace. Which means that you can set a boundary. But it's not putting a wall up and saying, I don't care, or I'm not interested, or I'm lazy, or no, I'm going to do what needs to be done. But first, again, I need to fill my cup. I need to think things through. And if no one's ever told you this, or if this is the first time you're hearing it, rest is not earned. It's a requirement. You must rest. So the next time you feel guilty for slowing down, remind yourself that recovery is part of the rhythm. Every living thing, trees, the tides in the sea, has cycles of rest and renewal. And so should you. You need to rest and restore yourself, renew, so that you can come back stronger with clarity. So to make the practice of self-care a little easier, I've created a quick 5-minute routine just for you. And you don't need an entire day to practice self-care. For instance, try one of these 5-minute resets anytime. The first one is breathe intentionally. Inhale through your nose for 4. Exhale for 4, and repeat this for 5 minutes. And just be calm and try to clear your mind and just be and practice your breathing. In for 4, out for 5 minutes. Another practice is you could just step outside. Feel the sun, the air, and the ground beneath you. Being out in nature is so peaceful. It can really, really calm your nervous system. And I'm not speaking from someone who's read this in a book, although I have many times over, but I've also practiced it many times over. A third 5-minute practice involves writing a micro journal entry. You can say, right now, I'm feeling blank and I need blank. Which could translate to, right now, I'm feeling stressed and I need to relax and release. Or I'm feeling tired and I need to sleep. Another practice is to drink water slowly. Pause and actually taste it. Although I know many of you say, well, water doesn't have a taste. Well, I disagree. I mean, and you would too. If you taste various types of water, then you'll know the difference. That's why we have our favorite brands, right? So, pause and slowly drink water. Maybe look out your window at the beautiful day and just take it all in for 5 minutes. Another practice is to affirm yourself. And that means to have your favorite affirmation on ready, or a few of them, such as, I am allowed to rest. I am enough as I am. An affirmation such as that, or any that speak to you, because affirmations are individual to you, can make all the difference. Small, consistent care moments build long-term calm. So as we close, I want you to remember this. Self-care is not a luxury. It's a responsibility. It's not selfish. It's sacred. And it is not about escape. It is about returning to yourself. So this week, try to practice one deeper act of self-care each day. Something that meets your real need, not the marketed version. Ask yourself each morning, what does caring for myself look like today? So that can be part of your morning ritual. It's asking yourself, what does caring for yourself look like today? And try to make a point to include that self-care as part of your day. You'll be amazed at how that small question changes your choices and your peace. Now, if today's episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs the reminder that self-care isn't superficial, it's survival. And don't forget to follow Glow and Flow Radio for more calm, clarity, and evidence-based self-care inspiration. You can also download my free self-care spectrum guide in the show notes. It breaks down all 4 types of self-care with examples and journal prompts to help you build your own balanced routine. And until next time, stay glowing, keep flowing, and give yourself permission to rest. Thank you.